Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to go over how I pack my backpack for backpacking. Now I'm going to give you a lot of tips. Not everybody's gear is the same, so your system might be way different than mine, but I'm going to go through in depth and show you guys exactly how I set my pack up for a successful backpacking trip. So let's get right into it. So here's my backpack and all my gear that I actually just got done using for 5 days on the Colorado Trail. It's definitely a sunglasses day. I always get comments too, people want the link to the sunglasses. They're just cheap. I don't even know what they are, so I cannot provide that. I do have a link for the shirt though. So this is my backpack. This is a LiteAF. This is a 40-liter backpack. It's an ultralight bag. I know a lot of you watching might not have a lot of ultralight gear. You might have more traditional stuff. So the way I pack this bag isn't necessarily gonna be a good tutorial for everybody. It's just gonna show you how I maximize my packing for efficiency and well-balanced weight distribution. Now first on the list is my pack liner. This is just a white trash bag. The backpack itself is already waterproof material, but it's not always foolproof. You always want to have a pack liner in your backpack if you're not using like an exterior rain cover. And the first thing that goes in that pack liner before I even put it in the pack is my quilt. So this is my down sleeping bag basically. This cannot get wet. So this is the one piece that is always in this trash bag in the bottom of my pack. I'll just put it in the bottom kind of like this, pile up all the other stuff on top. I won't even bother waterproofing everything if there's not a big chance of rain. If there's a slight chance, I might put like my down jacket in my clothing bag, things I absolutely do not want to get wet. Now some of you might be thinking I could just use a dry bag for this, but I can actually pretty much put everything in my pack in this to stay dry. So I usually go by the golden rule of keep your weight towards the top, and you want it like closer to your back. You don't want it hanging off too far, it'll kind of pull you back. The sleeping bag, the quilt is pretty lightweight, so that stays in the bottom. As I get higher, I usually put things a little bit heavier. Most of my gear is actually pretty lightweight. There's not a lot of things in here that actually has like substantial weight. The clothing bag is something I will not need until I get to camp and pretty much have camp set up. Now if there's anything little that I might want while hiking, like a wind shirt or a small pair of gloves, I might put those in a pocket somewhere easily accessible, but the clothing bag is layer number 2. So layer number 3 and 4, sometimes it mixes up a little bit because a lot of the stuff that I have in these 2 layers are very similar weights, so sometimes I just throw them in there and they land however they do. But ideally, I will put my tarp in beside my puffy jacket. So this is my tent, this is my tarp that goes over my bug net here. They're 2 separate pieces, which is really nice because when the tarp is wet and the bug net is not, I can just bunch this up and put it in the mesh pocket on the outside to keep everything inside my pack dry. But basically, the tarp is a little bit heavier than my down jacket. This only weighs like 8 ounces, so the tarp will fit up against my back, and then because this is so light, this will be on the outer edge. Now my puffy jacket is all rolled up nice in its own little pocket here, and it always starts the trip like this because I have a lot of time and precision in packing my pack before the trip. But packing up early morning, sometimes I just throw stuff in there, and the puffy is nice because if I have any little gaps where I didn't pack stuff correctly, or if my stuff sacks aren't quite you know, even, I can kind of just stuff this down in the corners to even it out and make everything nice and comfortable. So layer 4 consists of my bug net and my sleeping pad. So the sleeping pad, a little bit heavier than everything else that I've shown you, so this will once again be riding on my back. The bug net will be pressed up against it. So because the bug net is so small and easily compressible, it allows for extra space in that layer. So I'll throw little things like my Trekology Aloof 2.0 pillow, which is what I brought on my last trip to Colorado. Now I'm not going to get into any specifics of names or brands of gear that I packed, but if you're interested in that, my next video is going to be the full gear loadout, all the tech stuff to show you what I bring backpacking on a trip like this. The next layer of the pack usually consists of these 3 items. Now this is a key component to my backpacking kit, and this is something that I really think is a tip that you guys can take with you, and that is just bring less bags. Like there's so many different things in my ditty bag here. This has my headlamp, a little microfiber towel, first aid kit, just little stuff like that where you could easily put in their own bags or separate bags. But I use a Ziploc bag because I can easily just look in it and find where the chapstick is. It's very, very easy to use, pretty much waterproof or water resistant. And then this other Ziploc is pretty much just my YouTube stuff, extra batteries, lenses, SD cards, all my camera gear. there. So having less bags and just less items to pack your bag with actually makes things so much easier and so much more efficient when packing up in the mornings. So with these couple bags and all my stuff sacks, I really probably have less than 10 things that actually go into the main body of my backpack. Now these bags can kind of conform to different shapes, and my pot here, which has my titanium pot, my stove, a few other little things within it. Kind of the weirdest item to pack because it's rigid, you can't compress it at all. So these always take up a little bit of room, so I can always kind of finagle them in there and fit them in there nice together to where I still have a nice flat layer above that for the next item. And that is my food bag. Now sometimes this bag is really big. I had 5 days of food. I had it pretty much packed out on this last trip, but it weighed 8 pounds. It's definitely by far the heaviest thing in my pack, so it rides right up behind my head in my backpack. The reason why it's up there is because, like I said, you want to keep the weight higher, or if you can't keep it very high, you want it close to your back. So I'll get my daily hiking trail snacks out, fruit snacks, Cliff Bars, anything like that, and I'll keep them in easily accessible pockets. This is pretty much the only thing I will want to access during my hike. So I usually stop and eat lunch at some point, so it's good to have this like right when you open the bag. You don't have to root around, it's right on top. When I pull that out, the next layer down, like you saw, is my pot and my stove and all that. And that's pretty much everything trip dependent for the main compartment of my backpack. Now I still shove a lot in the front mesh pocket. We'll get to that in a minute. If you're new to backpacking, or maybe you just have a little bit different style or different gear than me, you're probably noticing that my system is very simple. There's not a lot of bags. There's not a lot of variances in the ways that I pack, and it's just a very efficient system that really works for me on the trail. So before we get to the pockets on the bag, the first thing I usually do is the backpacking chair. Now this is a custom printed stuff sack, but this is just a normal 1 pound Helinox chair. I have a V-loop on the front of my backpack. The backpacking chair rides right in the front of the pack, right at the bottom like that. The side pockets, I just use two, these are Life water bottles. I think these are 23 ounce. Not a big fan of the 1 liter bottles. I have a dirty water bag though if I need more capacity, but I usually run 2 of these bottles in one side pocket, and the reason I do that is because I carry a 2 pound tripod for filming. It's just one of my luxuries out there on the side of the pack in this side pocket. So now onto the stretch pocket on the front of the backpack. This is also something that is very consistent throughout all my trips. Mostly I put all the same gear in this pocket on every trip. And that usually begins with rain gear. So this is my rain coat and my rain shorts here. I don't wear these often. If it's light drizzle, I won't even wear them, but I still want them easily accessible in the case of a downpour. If it's raining and I don't feel like putting rain gear on, they can get wet as well as everything else that goes in this mesh pocket. It doesn't matter. Now these 2 items are things you want easily accessible to you while you're hiking. So this is my poop kit basically. It's got my little cat hole digger for digging my hole. It's got hand sanitizer, wet wipes, toilet paper. You always want this on the outside of your pack, so if nature calls, you can just throw your pack down, grab and go. And something we all do out there. It's not the funnest thing in the world, but if you're gonna backpack, you gotta do it. Well, I guess you don't have to. You can use Aqua Mirror drops, but this is my water filter, little Sawyer squeeze. I keep it in a Ziploc bag because you're not supposed to let these freeze. So if it drops below freezing, I'm gonna wanna sleep with it in my quilt, and a lot of times it'll drip water for a long time. So I keep it in a bag so that if I wanna sleep with it, it's not gonna get anything wet. I keep that self-contained in my little scoop here. That's for if the water's too shallow or just not running where I can't fill my bag up, I'll kind of scoop water and pour it into my bag. This is a 1 liter dirty water bag, and then I usually roll these up like this. Now this is actually funny because every trip I start, I put a rubber band around this just to kind of keep it tight and together, and every trip, no lie, every single trip, that thing eludes me. It just comes up missing, and I say missing, not lost, because it always turns up. It's always in a pocket or a stuff sack. On this past trip, I remember losing it for 2 days, and I found it again, then I lost it again. But I don't know what it is. When I pull that rubber band off, ADD moment, I never can remember where I put it, but normally I have a rubber band. I'll also put a fuel canister in that pocket if I'm going with that type of stove. A lot of times I'll use alcohol, so I'll use a little flask, and that will also go in that pocket. This is a 49-inch carbon fiber pull for my tarp. I keep that out there as well, and I put a little piece of chamois cloth rubber band to the bottom just so when I push it down into the mesh, some of these corners are a little sharp, and just for longevity of the pocket, I like to make sure it's nice and smooth and I don't rip anything. As well as, I don't have them here, but my tent stakes. So my little tent stake bag, I will also put that in the outside pocket. Now I didn't take this to Colorado, but it's worth mentioning because I take this backpacking 90% of the time, pretty much 100% of the time when I'm in my home state of Ohio here, because I like to have fires. I like to carry a saw. It's just very, very convenient. This goes in the outside pocket as well. It really doesn't matter if it gets wet. Just the nature of the sharpness of this, I don't want this anywhere in my pack where it would like maybe open up slightly and rip some down or something. I almost forgot too, I always carry camp shoes. These are super cheap, lightweight flip-flops. These also go in that outer pocket. This is kind of cool. I've never shared like my exact system with you guys about how I do things. So this is my GPS beacon. This is my little spot device. It usually rides right here, just because you don't want to have anything covering it. It has to be open to get like good signal. If it gets annoying, or if I'm using this pocket a lot, I'll flip it up to the back here sometimes and just let it ride on my shoulder. On this side, I have my Peak Designs camera clip, so I can just snap my camera and let it ride right on my shoulder strap. Now this backpack actually has detachable hip belt pockets. I usually only run one because I don't really carry a whole lot of stuff or need access to a whole lot of stuff on trail. Other than my camera gear and snacks, which I keep in this little mesh pocket that's permanently sewn on my shoulder strap, I just don't need a whole lot of stuff. Having a shoulder strap pocket like this is just a game changer. If you're not utilizing this real estate on your straps, you really should be. You can get like aftermarket, some companies make little stretch pockets that you can attach through webbing on your straps. Like this fits water bottles. So it's very long, so I'll throw in a Snickers bar, Cliff bar, fruit snacks, just a bunch of junk, just a bunch of carbs to fuel me through my hike. That's all that pretty much goes in there. Sometimes I'll put my phone in there. Other times I just keep my phone in my ditty bag in my backpack because I really don't look at it unless I'm somewhere new or I'm really looking through a map. I won't really carry the phone. In the one hip belt pocket that I do use, a lot of times there's just different stuff in there, like my little wind shirt that packs down very small, latex rain gloves that I had to wear them at high elevation in Colorado because the wind was just making my hands go numb. Emergency camera gear right here, so stuff that I'm gonna need like if my camera dies, if my SD card gets full. So I'll have like an extra card, an extra battery, maybe just like one in here, and the pocket's pretty empty, but it's pretty much just for camera gear and efficiency for filming. All right, so the next one is a game changer completely. So not all backpacks have this, but if you ever have the opportunity to have an option of a bottom pocket on your backpack, I say go for it. I actually wasn't sold in the bottom pocket when I got it, but when I ordered this, I just put all the bells and whistles on it. I never tried one. I just figured I would try all these different options on it and see what works for the future. So basically, it's a Lycra mesh pocket on the bottom, and I pretty much only use it for one thing, and that is my trash bag. And if you're wondering if this is real trash, the answer is yes. Now this is like totally embarrassing. This is my 5 days of trash that I collected in Colorado. For some unknown reason, I brought it back to Ohio with me. So when I was planning this video, I'm thinking I need like a trash bag or something to kind of show you guys how it works. And I remember thinking, I don't remember throwing my trash away. And I look over sitting against the wall, still unpacked from Colorado, and I see the bump in the bottom pocket, which is my trash bag. When I packed for the flight on the way home, I put most of my backpacking gear in my suitcase, and I use my backpack as a carry-on. Nasty Mountain House wrappers, coffee grounds, and even beer cans in here. I brought beer cans on an airline. It's actually just starting to smell now. It's been a couple days since I got home. I cannot believe I brought my trash bag as a carry-on a plane, but here it is. I did it for you guys. I wanted you to see the actual gear that I carry on the trail. But the bottom pocket is literally just the best place to keep your trash. I'm always scared of like beer juices or Mountain House juices leaking on stuff, or it might smell. I just don't want to put it in my pack. I don't want to ride with it up here where I can smell it all day long. Even the mesh pocket on the outside, I don't want it potentially leaking on the outside of my pack. So if it's in the bottom, like in the back there, it's just out of the way. And this backpack also has a little thumb hole right on the side here, which is meant for wrappers. It's actually really cool. If I'm eating some food and I got the wrapper, I can just like use my thumb and push the wrapper into the big open mesh pocket, which once I kind of have a Ziploc bag for this, it blocks it from falling out. That's what's really cool about the pocket. So it always has my trash in it, and then I can stuff my wrappers in on this side, which that one side is sewn. So it's only got one entrance, and just none of my wrappers ever seem to fall out, or that I know of. The downside to that is I forget when shit's in there. I immediately threw it away. I wasn't gonna tell the world, and then I thought, you know, it's just really funny. It's just one of those things where, you know, do I keep it real with you, or do I just have a fake bag and pretend like I didn't do something stupid? I think it's funny. That is pretty much it, I think. My entire setup. Very simple. Like I said, combine all your little stuff in one bag so you don't have like a big chance of losing it. It's just quicker and easier to throw everything in. The last day is awesome because stuff sacks are out the window. You just shove everything in the bag. But any other day, my system is very efficient. It works good for me. The weight distribution is pretty good. Like I said, the food bag is the heaviest. Not a lot of really heavy stuff other than that. And make sure that shit's waterproof. That is number one. That will take you off the trail. If you're in a rainstorm, you get to camp, everything's soaked. Now, if you guys are interested in the specifics of my kit, if you want to know exactly what gear I took out to Colorado, I'm going to make a video on that. You guys can check that out. But that's going to do it for this one. So leave a comment down below. How do you guys pack your bag? And yeah, hit the like button, hit that little notification bell, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.